Life is full of oddities and airports are no exception. As we all know, the weight and dimensions of luggage carried on the plane are limited. There is also a list of items that we cannot bring on board. Usually, passengers know exactly what is allowed and what is not. However, there are always moments when people want to take strange things with them. If you want to laugh, make yourself comfortable. Here are 10 unusual objects that travelers have tried to transport on a plane. You'll see that some really got some nerves. Let's take off. While you're racking your brains to find the person who will keep your cat when you go on vacation, a Thai woman didn't think too much, she simply decided to take it with her. Yes. And it's not a little tomcat we're talking about here, it's a tiger. Yes. A baby certainly, but a tiger anyway. The 30-year-old was arrested at Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi International Airport when she was about to board a flight to Iran. She had put the 2-month-old animal inside a suitcase and held it summarily with a rubber band. She nevertheless took care to put a stuffed tiger in the suitcase, just to keep it company and so that the customs officers would not see anything but fire. Except that she had not foreseen that the customs officers could detect the tiger with X-rays. The least funny part of the story is that the woman had drugged the animal before going to the airport. An official from the Wildlife Protection Division said that the tiger was very calm at the time, half drowsy. The animal was then transferred to a specialized center. With this action, the alleged owner of the tiger could face up to 4 years in prison and a fine of $1,280. He was a hair's breadth away from getting away, but that was without counting on his great cut at the point of ridicule. This man with a seemingly normal look was arrested at the airport of Cochin in India because he was hiding under his mane, his wig instead, a big golden booty, 1.13 kilograms of gold in small ingots, that he was trying to smuggle. But the Customs Air Intelligence officials were determined to check his head for lice and soon realized what was going on. The man who called himself Naushad had shaved off a good part of his hair, the middle part for those who are interested, to create enough space to place his merchandise, but he was soon toasted. We wonder who he was planning to sell it to, and especially if he was in cahoots with someone else. Here's one who clearly played the fool, and fool for merchandise. But if there are any who haven't been fooled, it's the customs officers at this airport in Melbourne, Australia. An Australian was arrested at the airport when he was hiding 2 pigeons in his socks. The poor guys must have had a bad 15 minutes, and it must not have smelled very good. The most incredible part of the story is that the 23-year-old man had 2 bird eggs hidden in a medicine cup and cereal grains in a silver bag in his pockets. And this is precisely what aroused the suspicions of the customs officers. After being checked, the man was taken to the interrogation room, where they discovered the birds wildly tied up and hidden under socks. The passenger, who had just completed a long 10-hour journey from Dubai, was facing a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison that day, and a juicy fine of 110,000 Australian dollars. Who's the patsy now? As we all know, when entering or leaving a country, it is imperative to declare everything that is being transported, otherwise, it could be considered theft, fraud, or smuggling. And the same is applicable to what we transport as food, if you know what I mean. No, don't you know what I mean? Anyway, this South Korean woman has understood it very well herself, since she was arrested at the airport in Guangzhou, China, when she was trying to pass through security checks with a bottle of water. When the security guards invited her to drink the contents of the bottle or throw it away before passing, the woman did not hesitate long before swallowing all the water in one go. But what caught the officer's attention was that the woman decided to keep the water in her mouth. They then asked him to spit in a bucket, and that's when they made the incredible discovery. Dozens of tadpoles were wriggling in the water. The woman tried to justify herself by explaining that these small amphibians were offered by a friend. Well, not very credible this story. So, it seems we wanted to spend the money of the group? Decidedly this lady must have had a crazy side. Well, 7,200 for behaving like that. The story took place at Amsterdam Schiphol Airport in Holland. Security guards had to confiscate the bag of a German couple because they were stopped by the 200 bags it contained. When they opened it, they discovered that each bag contained several dozen tarantulas of a rare species. When questioned, the couple had confided that they planned to take them home after their trip to South America. We'll never know exactly what they were going to do with them, or at least it didn't sound very reassuring. When this woman informed her husband that she wanted to go to Greece to see some country, he may have understood it differently. And yes, going on holiday somewhere else than your own country doesn't necessarily mean, take a break. And to ensure that she did not have extramarital affairs, he made her wear a chastity belt. For those who don't know what this is, and it would be very surprising if you did, it is a metal device that young women used to wear in the Middle Ages to prevent them from having premarital relations. Of course, you can imagine that when she arrived at the security passage of the Athens airport, the woman had to bring out the heavy artillery and find an explanation that is a minimum plausible to give to the security guards. Because unless one of them lived in the Middle Ages, they must have been very surprised when they discovered the thing. In the holds of airplanes, you can find all sorts of things. Weird suitcases, suspicious packages, crocodiles, animal cages. Wait for a second, go backward. Yes, you heard the word, crocodile, a real one and not a plastic buoy. In September 2012, during a flight from Melbourne to Brisbane, a crocodile managed to escape from its cage and started to roam freely in the hold of the plane. Luckily, the animal was quickly channeled, but I can imagine the poor employee's head falling face to face with the alligator. He deserves 3 months off, that one. The stowaway was 60 centimeters long, which is not much, but the scare must have been much bigger. The crocodile was transported by the Australian Air Express Freight Company, and the airline Qantas, for its part, opened an investigation to find out where the mistake that caused the animal to flee came from. Flying is always stressful. What products are you allowed to carry? How many milliliters should not be exceeded? What items are subject to confiscation? While you're stressed out about personal items, other people have been traveling peacefully with a bag full of moose droppings. This happened at the Juneau Airport in Alaska when screening officers were stopped by the scanner code that indicated the presence of organic matter in a bag, which they then opened to discover that it contained hundreds of dried moose droppings. The traveler in question confirmed in a provocative tone that he wanted to teach a good lesson to politicians and their men. But in a more serious tone, he then added that he had just returned from adventures in Alaska and wanted to take a nice, little souvenir back with him. Something that can stay anchored in the nasal cavities and the tissues of the suitcases, for example, just to change the good old magnet to stick to the refrigerator. The most unusual thing about the case is that the bag was immediately closed and traveled well with its owner. The agents could not confiscate it since no law provided that travelers would carry shit in their bags. Ah well, you had to feel this one coming. How do you scare off airport security guards and still avoid falling into crime or misdemeanor? Well, it's easy. Have a corpse transported. No one will blame you. Well, of course, you didn't kill him. No kidding aside. It did happen at the Atlanta airport when security guards nearly had a heart attack when they saw a dead body sitting in a wheelchair coming through the ticket counter. The unfriendly passenger went through the boarding process like a normal person. But hey, we forgot to tell you that the creature was actually an ugly model that was used to shoot the famous horror movie, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Do you recognize it now? The pretty doll was scanned and made its journey in its chair, just like a living person would have done. The more unusual you die. Oops. Sorry. The Chinese are known to be ingenious people, extremely intelligent, and unbeatable in many fields. Well, it seems that this one is the exception to the rule. Look. This Chinese man was stopped by customs officials at the border between Hong Kong and Shenzhen as he tried to smuggle 94 iPhones. And no, he didn't use a bag or a suitcase. He simply had the ingenious idea of hiding them under his clothes and taping them all over his body. On his legs, on his chest, along his arms, and even on his back. The one who served as a mule had attracted the attention of the customs officers by his strange appearance and gait. They said that the man was very stiff in his joints. Unless he was suffering from a serious sunburn, nothing else could explain such a posture. After he was arrested, the customs officers calculated the value of the loot, which was almost 65,000 euros. If the Chinese had taken such a risk, it is because, in Hong Kong, the prices of Apple products are much lower than elsewhere. After all, the tax is less heavy. That's what happens when you're a real stubborn person. So, what do you think of these 10 unusual things that have been transported or found on airplanes? Tell us in the comments which one surprised you the most. Me, it's definitely the chastity belt thing, and you?